is the model where teachers deposit knowledge in the minds of the children. It's a older method, a more traditional method of teaching versus the collaborative model or the emergent curriculum where the teacher and the child are collaborators and are both looking for answers to questions together. The new ideas of thinking of teaching as collaborative, as there's more than one truth and nobody has the power to hold all the truth, that the truth is something that depends on each person's experiences and personality and desires. So instead of thinking of one truth, now we think about multiple points of view and different truths. But I don't think that has been recognized in traditional education yet. I think they still think that children are pieces of clay that need to be molded, and that the teacher has the best knowledge and all the knowledge, and it's the teacher's job to fill the child up with that knowledge so that they will be a good citizen. But I don't think there's enough widespread acceptance of the idea that children are already citizens, they're already people of the world, they already have an aesthetic, and that they are not shells to be filled up. But and then he had sign up to wrestle someone. It's all based on smackdown. And I said to him, how did you learn how to draw a wrestling ring so well? Like, did someone teach you how to draw perspective? And he said, no, I just watch wrestling on television. And I look at the rings, the wrestling rings. And it made me realize even more that even complex ideas of drawing, which we attribute to perspective, even though there are many more complex things that are not acknowledged, like drawing the muscles on this guy's arms. How is he going to do that? How is he going to make this stick man look strong? So he thinks, well, what makes a person strong? Upper body strength, muscles. So he just takes the stick arm and draws a muscle on it to convey the idea that this is a strong muscle guy. Okay. So that's complex, but how does he do something that's traditionally complex? And he doesn't learn it by a teacher saying, go sit in the hallway and draw how the hallway goes back in perspective. Or here, let's draw these fence posts and copy this picture of these fence posts by the barn, and then you'll be able to go perspective. But he, in his own life, he notices it because it's important to him, and then he practices, and then on his own, he figures it out. And I think that the teacher's role is not to find out what's the most important thing for children to know and to teach them that, but to listen to the questions that the children ask and then realize that's something they need to know, and I will teach it to them. And if they find it out themselves, that's great, and maybe then I can compliment them, or I can point out maybe something that maybe they might want to have these two parallel. Interested in ways children incorporate who they are in the public school. And then I've also been interested in schools that acknowledge the aesthetic of the child and give that its due. So I read an article in Art in America about a woman, Teresa Roberts, who went to Room 13 in Scotland to see schools that are art classrooms that are run by children in schools. And they sounded fantastic because the kids were as young as 7 to age 12, and they were hiring the art teacher, raising money for their program, having a management team, everything for the room. And I was so curious because that's kind of what I've always thought of as the best kind of art education, because art education to me isn't about learning the color wheel or specific slices of art, but it's about using art as a bigger thing in your whole life, not little slices. So anyway, so I went over there, I wrote a grant, I went there and I visited for a couple of weeks, and it was exactly as I thought, and even more so. It had less tension in it than most classrooms do in the United States. There was an ease between the teacher, the art teacher, and the children, that was not about rush, get this project done. It was more about uncovering information instead of covering information. There were strange little objects across the room that kids had made that you had to respect because they were thought through, but to an adult they might not have looked like something. For example, a child took a piece of wood and painted it blue and then stuck it on something else and put an island of water around it in another container and then painted the outside of that container, and that was this sculpture, and it was about this big, and they had it off to the side of the room, and it was respected by everyone. All the kids would come in and they would look at it and say, oh, that's Natalie's sculpture, and she would talk about it, and it just seemed like the kids were making art based on their own lives and their own questions, and not on, like, painting gourds to look like cartoon characters and putting them at the top of a hill or something, which is something that a teacher might plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what got me excited about it. And then, since then, I continue to read, and I started a Room 13 in Boone at the Turchin Center as an after-school program to see how it would look in America. What would a Room 13 look like if it was in this culture? And I've heard from the Room 13 in Los Angeles, and they are very excited to keep in touch with us, and we're going to Skype, and I've been saying that for months, but I haven't had a chance to get back to them, but that is my goal in the next 2 weeks, is to get back to the Room 13 people in Scotland.
Oh, yeah. So do you feel like it's working just as well here as it works there?
Okay, the advantages of it there is it's in the school there, so the kids can just come up at their free time when their assignments are done, during lunch, before school, after school. Here they have to be brought after school, then they stay a couple of hours, and then they go home. So it's not, they don't have